Today, welcome to this webinar. We do a lot of webinars here at SOS talking to various customers and partners. In today's webinar, we're specifically looking at the SOS technology and as it's used by our small business market. The webinar is just from a housekeeping standpoint, and so you know what you signed up for, be roughly a 30-minute webinar, followed then by detailed question and answers. So we really recommend or ask that people ask questions throughout the presentation. Makes these presentations much more lively and interesting. We'll do our best to answer those questions along with the content, and otherwise we'll answer all questions that have been typed at the end of the webinar. In the GoToWebinar software, you can press the question button, there's a little question mark icon, and then you can type a question. A few of you have already used that to give us information about the sound check. Yeah, really encourage you to do that throughout the presentation. In terms of the material we'll be covering, a brief overview of who SOS is as a company. We'll then, Lynn will be talking to the regulatory frameworks that exist that apply to many different types of small businesses, and in particular, which functionalities and features within the SOS technology stack meet the requirements of those regulatory frameworks. I'll then we'll take a brief tour through the backup and DR industry. We'll look at the traditional backup technology being used by small businesses in America, and then we'll turn to the SOS technology. So we'll look at key areas of technology in detail. That section of the webinar will often be driven by audience interest. So if there's parts of the technology you'd like to hear more about, please type a question and we can drill into that. And then at the end, as I said, we'll have a general Q&A. Intended audience today, small to medium businesses. Our real power sector as a company is businesses with 5 to 50 employees. That's what we focus on. And then at the end of the webinar, we'll be announcing how to go into running for the Kindle draw. So there'll be a promotion code that you need, and that'll be at the end of the webinar. Terrific. With that, we'll dive in. So who is SOS? For those of you not particularly familiar with SOS, this is just a brief overview of the company. We've been around for nearly a decade now. We're we're very well known in the online backup space. Google Online Backup usually in the top 3 or 4 results. Founded originally in 2001 to focus on what was then a very nascent and early stage market. We've always been dedicated to online backup, but we've got general disaster recovery and other backup technology. So we've got a local backup stack as well. We've won many product awards. Our technology continues to attract awards every year. Laptop Magazine Editor's Choice, been PC Magazine Editor's Choice every year since 2006. We generally focus on being the technology leader of the space. We pride ourselves on continuing to drive the standards in the online backup space. So many of the features of online backup technology as an industry we pioneered, things like physical media upload to seed data centers, the whole private key encryption system that SOS uses, which we call UltraSafe. We were the first to use that. So we've really been at the forefront of online backup since the beginning of the industry. And that's then reflected by our size. We've got more than 200 employees worldwide. We operate offices on 4 continents, and we've got 10 data centers around the world with more than 3 million customer accounts and nearly 10 million PCs being protected. We say all of that just by way of pointing out that we've been in this game a long time. We're a large firm that you can rely on, and frankly, we're the best in the market at what we do. The goal of today's webinar is to educate you about the industry, educate you about online backup in general, and about our technology in particular, and why we think you should work with us. Probably covered this slide, but in terms of positioning what our focus is in the market, we're very much a small business focused company. We do have a consumer offering. We've got a lot of users who use our home user offering. We do have enterprise customers, but really where we shine is in the small business space. Some of these other brands on this slide you might be familiar with, and this slide just attempts to position those other brands in terms of their focus. Obviously, Carbonite and Mozy, very much consumer-centric, home user-focused solutions. And then Iron Mountain, Symantec, both very much enterprise solutions, very expensive to use. Where we sit and where we like to focus is on that 5 to 50 employee small business. And the solution that we have in this market is a unique solution. It's a combination of our physical infrastructure around the world, our software, and then our professional services, particularly our Blue Sky professional services team, which is a real differentiator for us. what we offer to businesses is a fully managed online backup experience. So what I mean by that is not only do we have our world-class physical infrastructure, our data centers, and our award-winning software that we can provide to you, but unlike anybody else, we'll provide you with a backup solutions consultant, an actual engineer who will work with you in what we call a kickoff meeting to assess your environment, design a proper disaster recovery strategy for your small business, deploy our software to your environment, actually install and configure it, manage and monitor the backup of your data to our data centers to make certain that it's usually there's a 30-day window, which is a critical window to make certain that your online backup deployment is working fully, and that's really where we'll provide intensive care, or what we call white glove service. There's then comprehensive training that we provide to you and your staff, because online backup opens up a whole new way of interacting with data. We'll talk more about that in a few slides' time. But obviously training for your IT staff, but as well as your general users. And then our technical support, which is second to none, 24/7 technical support with our Blue Sky team, including, as I said, they'll not only remote into your machines and do the initial deployment and installation, but they'll be there to resolve any issues that occur and to troubleshoot and actually resolve them themselves. So it's a full service solution. And really what we say is we want to back up your business so you can focus on what you do best. And to that end, we provide every piece of the puzzle, the hardware, the software, and the services. So let's turn now and look at the most common and prevalent backup technologies that are out there in the market, and in particular the regulatory burdens that are associated with online backup in particular.
This is Lynn Weber. I would like to address some of the key regulatory compliance issues that come up in our SMB business, and to point out some of the features and the reasons why our solution meets or exceeds their standards. Later, Ken is going to be looking at and explaining other solutions you will all be familiar with and point out places where they do not meet some of these requirements. The most common that we come across is requirements around HIPAA, Sarbanes-Oxley, SEC requirements, even folks who ask us about SAS 70. And there's key features they're looking for in order to meet or exceed those requirements. One of them is that data that gets backed up needs to be in geographically separate locations, being backed up and stored in multiple locations. We meet that. We have 5 Tier 4 data centers in the U.S. currently, 10 globally, and your data is not only at one data center, but at least 2, stored at a very high encryption level. The data is frankly encrypted locally before even taken off-site. Particularly for Sarbanes-Oxley, which governs financial data, those records need to be kept for 7 years, date time-stamped. We feature free and unlimited versioning. That is all date time-stamped. That means literally you can accomplish proving your records per Sarbanes-Oxley with this solution.
And that can all be fully archived. So even if you've destroyed your on-site copy of the digital data, we can still archive that data for you in the cloud until such time as you need to then remove that.
The other feature, and HIPAA is law that is required by any health information, is in order to truly secure it, you have to manage who has access to the data. And the most secure way to run that is with a single decryption key. This is an option that is free within the software. You would just, when you sign up for an account, make sure that your sales executive knows that you need HIPAA requirements, and we will develop a single decryption key, which means nobody within the SOS world, or anybody for that matter, can have access to your data unless they know that password and username combination that you would manage. This also is what meets and exceeds SEC requirements and, frankly, a whole host of other requirements. These have focused on U.S. laws and requirements. However, we have global clients who also have very similar limitations and requirements, and these bullets here really exceed those as well.
We're going to dive into each of these technologies in detail when we look at the technology in a few slides' time. So if there are any questions there, we'll feel free to type them. Otherwise, we'll move on and we'll do a deep dive in some of these topics in just a few minutes. Thank you, Lynn. So turning now to what is the most common types of backup technology being used in the industry today, we really still see a prevalence in the market, particularly the small business market, of three main types of technology being used. Online backup really is in the early stages of adoption. The US backup market annually is roughly $10 billion, of which, depending on who you listen to, $3 to $4 to $5 billion of that is in the small business space. And then that spend is divided up between hardware, software, and services. So it's quite a fractured market. In terms of the hardware technology that's still being used out there in the small business market in America in particular, there are three primary technologies being tape, disk, and DVD, all of which we bundle up into what we call centrally architected backup solutions. So what we mean by that is, typical situation is an office environment, perhaps some laptops, some workstations, and a server. All the data goes to the server, and then the server gets backed up. And as a company, what we've discovered is that model is fundamentally broken. It doesn't provide adequate backup service to its users. It's often very expensive, and it's often very error-prone. We'll talk to those on the next slide. Tape is the most common backup technology being used in the market today. Normally on these webinars we have a poll and we poll the participants, but today that hasn't been set up. Actually, I'd be interested if anybody types their comments. Feel free to type through what type of technology you're using for backup: online backup, tape, disk, DVD, or don't know. We often actually get a lot of I don't know. So looking at the centrally architected backup solutions, so external hard disk drive, Rebecca Nielsen's typed, which falls under disk and generally still falls within the centrally architected backup solution category. Looking at a one-up comparison of centrally architected solutions, and again, what I mean by that is hardware-based solutions that are tied to one central data node like a server. And let's contrast that with the world of online backup. First and foremost, with these traditional technologies, backup is difficult to actually deploy and set up. So nearly invariably, IT staff is required to set up these backup technologies. Whereas with online backup, it's extremely simple software that you can install yourself on all of your computers. But it's something that small business operators will generally do for themselves or do in-house, even if they don't have IT staff in-house. They won't even get their IT consultant involved. Furthermore, with SOS's Blue Sky offering, SOS will in fact do that deployment for you. So all of the complication around setting up and configuring online backup is removed by our Blue Sky team, and it's a fundamentally better world than when you're trying to set up hardware-based solutions like a tape array, which can be very complicated to set up. Coverage. Now, what we mean by coverage is just what data is going to be backed up. So one of the big drawbacks of these centrally architected solutions is that generally only the server is going to be protected, and generally a lot of data, excuse me, sorry for that background noise, generally a lot of the data is not actually on that server environment.
So IBM estimates that as much as 60% of data in small business in America actually lives on the edge of the network, or what we mean by the edge is laptops in particular, or branch offices. So laptops moving in and out of the corporate network are very rarely backed up. Ask yourself the question, how often does the data on your laptop actually get protected? Generally, any data that's sitting on the server will get backed up, but not actually laptops. So James Dianecos just commented, hello, we use two 100 gig external hard disk drives, very cumbersome and inefficient. Absolutely, James. And from a coverage standpoint, I mean, that's a great example of your typical disk backup array. It only covers devices that are connected to that. So how many of the devices on your network are in fact connected to those external hard disk drives? Most of them not, and your laptops probably not. Laptops is the biggest issue where coverage comes up. But as more and more data is starting to accumulate on mobile devices, we're seeing mobile be the new frontier of backup as well. So we will very soon have, in our new summer release, you'll be able to back up BlackBerries and iPhones and all sorts of other data, as well as laptops and servers and workstations, which has always been our core business. But let's contrast the centrally architected backup solution with online backup, where every single device is under the backup cloud. So what we mean by that is a laptop, if it leaves the office and is no longer connected to the LAN, can no longer be backed up to the server, but it's always connected to the internet. These days, most laptops are always connected to the internet. And that means that laptop can be protected. So whether it's laptops, whether it's branch offices, anything that's not in your existing backup cone or on that centrally architected solution can now be backed up with online backup. Extremely simple. In terms of media, so to James's comment, external hard disk drives are very cumbersome. So are any physical media. So whether it's disk or tape or DVD and other archival media. With online backup, there is no physical media. It's set and forget software as a service. So you deploy SOS, and that's the last step that you have to worry about. After that, your backups just happen what we call auto-magically internally. Recovery is also something that's often overlooked by people when they're evaluating backup technologies. A backup's only as good as the recovery. So, and a lot of people don't think about how effective their backup technology is for recovery. How long will it take you to rebuild your environment? With tape-based solutions, where you've got full backup archives and then incremental tapes, recovering an entire environment can literally take 3 or 4 days. So the question for you as a small business operator is just what cost does that represent for your business to be offline for 3 or 4 days or without crucial data? We get calls all the time and case studies in our care department of businesses who are completely down and urgently need access to a Quicken database or an inventory database or certain other files that their business simply can't operate without. And we've got an emergency response team who will immediately get that data back for customers. But you can get it yourself. You can log in with it with our software, and you can get access to data in the cloud at any time. So I'm just going to flip my screen here just to give you to demonstrate what I'm talking about. So here in this web browser, you can see I'm actually logged in with the browser into my online backup account. You can see I've got a bunch of PCs that I've got backed up to this particular account. And in real time here, I can access my data that's stored in the cloud. I don't need to recover from tapes. I don't need to wait days to do a recovery. I've got instant access to all of my computers. In this case, you can see I've got 7 or 8 PCs all being managed essentially with my account. Contrast that with your typical physical backup technologies, and you've got very long recovery windows, so that and very great expense associated with those recovery windows. All right, so I'm running a bit behind on schedule here. From a security standpoint, disk, tape, and DVD, none of them meet the regulatory requirements of SARbox or HIPAA, simply because they're generally not encrypted. So every high-profile data loss incident that you read of in the news is around a unencrypted backup that's where physical control's been lost to that. So a tape was misplaced, a laptop was misplaced. With online backup, every piece of data is encrypted in your local environment before it ever is transferred. Then it's sent over an encrypted tunnel to our data centers, and then it's re-encrypted and stored on the server side. We often get questions about our encryption system. Access to data with traditional backup technologies, it's only the IT guy who understands where and how the data is backed up and stored and how to do a recovery. With online backup, you saw how simple it was just a second ago. Anybody in your business, if you want to set it up this way, can log in and get real-time access to their data. From a management standpoint, online backup is far more affordable, and your overall cost, whether you're talking about physical capital cost of actual equipment and software, or whether you're talking about operational cost to run and the hidden costs associated with, for example, downtime. Online backup is anywhere from 70 to 80% less expensive than traditional backup solutions. So on the screen there's a case study, which is an example of one of our customers who's using tape backup and moved to our solution. And so their total cost on their backup, on their tape array, the capital equipment costs, and when I say capital equipment, I'm talking about the physical hardware and the software. So I'm not looking at any of the labor costs associated with these backup solutions. And the labor costs are very substantial. That's time taken away from your business that prevents you from doing what you do best. In some studies, the labor costs associated with tape backup are shown to be as much as 100% of the capital cost. So, but just looking at capital costs on this backup solution, the price tag was $6,146 for the initial deployment, and then the total 5-year cost. There was then recurring costs on various pieces of capital equipment. Total 5-year cost was $9,130. Contrast that with when they moved to SOS, the total cost to back up their entire business, the 12-employee company, was $1,000 a year. So it's only 16% of the first-year cost of the tape backup solution. And we've covered this. So really contrasting what happens with these centrally architected backup solutions. In the world of SOS, we take the software, the hardware, the service and support that you need, and we wrap it all up in our cloud-based backup offering. Just in terms of some statistics, a recent survey by CTO Edge magazine has got as many as 70% of the enterprise CTOs who were surveyed moving some or all of their backup to cloud-based backup. So there's a real groundswell going on in the market with millions of people moving to cloud-based backup. We're one of the leaders of that industry, and we'd really like to see you using our technology to protect your data. So again, recapping, we're going to turn and look at the actual product technology now, but just recapping the solution. Remember that you get access to our global infrastructure grid of 10 data centers worldwide and 5 in the United States, our award-winning software, and then our professional services team who will assess, deploy, and manage your backup, and then they are then supported by our training organization and our support organization who will continue to work with you and protect your data throughout the lifetime of your subscription with SOS. So taking a step back and looking at what the SOS product is all about, it's actually about more than just backup. We've always, as a company, focused our product strategy around 3 pillars: protect, access, and share. When we talk about protect, we mean backup and recovery. So we focus on having world-class, best-of-breed backup and recovery technology. Access is about new ways for you to get access to your data in real time. We saw an example of that where I was accessing data through a browser, but I can do that from a BlackBerry device, an Android, from my iPhone, from a netbook. And then share is often overlooked as a consumer feature, but it really isn't. We designed our sharing system for businesses because we found that a lot of businesses have difficulty getting data to people that they need to share data with, whether that's getting financial information to accountants or just emailing around really large attachments. And when you start moving all of your data to the cloud, it opens up these new avenues of working with and consuming and sharing your data. So our customers who use our online backup system to protect their data also use it to access it anywhere and on the road, and also use it to share with business colleagues. So instead of saying, when I get back to the office, I'll email you this presentation, I can, on my iPhone, access this presentation immediately and email it to you right at lunch. So turning to what that actually means in the SOS product, and there's a screenshot down here in the bottom right-hand corner. We're going to look at some of the key features of the SOS product. First thing I'm going to do is just actually bring up, here on screen you can actually see the SOS client software. And there are 2 ways of using the SOS client software, in wizard mode, which I've got up in screen, or for the more technically savvy users, our classic view, which is our advanced view. I'll leave it in wizard mode for now because it really gives you a sense of how simple the technology is to use. We spent millions of dollars on usability research to make certain that our product is most responsive to the needs and demands of our customers. And so there are 4 key things that I can do with the software. I can back up to the internet, I can back up to the cloud, back up online, I can recover data from the cloud, I can back up locally, I can restore locally. So here at SOS, we believe in 2-stage backup, that you should always have a full local backup of your data, and you should then have a cloud backup of your data. So unlike other online backup companies, we've invested heavily in our local backup technology, which allows you to continue to have full local backups of all of your data, as well as then using our online backup technology to make certain that your most crucial data is being protected. And again, just to give you a sense of how easy the software is to work, I've clicked into the online backup wizard, and I can step through this wizard to select what I need to protect, when I would like that backup to run, who I would like the platform to notify when I'm running backups, and this will email with when the backup's complete or any issues. I can review just what it is that I've set up to backup and when. I simply click finish, and my backup's configured to run. So it really is that simple. Now, I'm turning to some key features of the SOS system. Okay, so we've covered that. Sorry, I've just had to refresh the screen. A continuous data protection module, let me talk to this. This is our Live Protect system. And what this refers to is the fact that we can actually, not only will we run backups on a schedule, but we can actually continuously monitor individual files that you need to be backed up. And every time that content is modified, the system will then detect that change and immediately back it up to the cloud. Unlimited computers. So you saw when I was logged into my account earlier that I was managing 8 different PCs from one account. So one of the, if you look at our competitors, what they charge, they actually charge you a license fee per seat. So you pay, say, $6.95 for every server that you need to back up every month, even if you're not backing up any data. So that can then really, with a 10-person business, that can really actually start to load the costs. You can be paying as much as $360, $400 a year to back nothing up. Whereas with SOS, one of the great benefits of the software is actually running it across multiple PCs and servers so that you can manage them all from one central location. Global roaming access, we've already talked about, and access on iPhone we've talked about local backup. So enhanced security and privacy. We often get we get questions around security. I'm happy to take any questions, and Lynn's already talked about this. Our UltraSafe security model is a private key encryption model where we encrypt the data with military-grade encryption before the data ever leaves your PC or your office. And we can do that with a key only known to you, so that literally even if somebody were to get access to our back end, which has never happened, and we've got very deep protection, both physical and network, around our infrastructure, obviously. But even if that were to happen, the data is absolutely useless without the encryption key that only you know. So that's our UltraSafe security system, and something that a lot of small businesses with sensitive data, like accounting businesses or medical businesses, will leverage. Our compression and transfer system, what this is talking to here is really the fact that we optimize the bandwidth consumption. So a lot of our customers use DSL connections, for example. And the way SOS works is, on day one, it will back up all of the data to the cloud. But thereafter, on each day, all it will do is back up the incremental ones and zeros, the binary code that has changed from day to day. With file filters, you can tell the system what types of files to back up, what not. You can tell it, for example, to ignore videos if that is going to fill up your backup account. You don't want that pushed to the cloud. Physical media upload, if you've got a lot of data to back up, we can actually FedEx you a hard disk drive, and we'll run the backup to the hard disk drive. It's still fully encrypted and secure, and then ship that back to us, and we'll upload it to the data center. This is important for customers who are concerned about how much bandwidth online backup is going to use. Our recovery backup that you've ever run on your system, and recover your system back to any day that you've ever run a backup. So I can roll my system back to see how my data set looked on the 3rd of September 2009, or in my case, I can actually roll it back 5 years. I've got 5 years worth of data backed up to the SOS cloud. Unlimited versioning, this is a set-apart feature. So we will store every single version of a file for you. A lot of small businesses actually use this as a document management system. So if you've got a file which is changing regularly, a great example would be a QuickBooks database or other financial information for a business, and that file is changing every day, we will store an unlimited history of versions for that file at no charge to you. And then also unlimited archiving. If we look at competitive technologies, so if we take Mozy, for example, if you delete a file on your PC, Mozy then deletes that file from the cloud, because they say that backup is only about backing up what's on your PC, and that if they were to keep it in the cloud, that's what they would call archiving. Well, at SOS, we believe that no data should be removed from the cloud until you, the user, explicitly tell us to delete the file from the cloud. And why? Simply because accidental deletion is one of the leading causes of consumer and small business data loss. So deleting content locally that you then subsequently discover you didn't want to delete locally can lead to enormous problems. if that data has then been purged from your cloud backup. We don't do that. So we maintain that archive copy for you until you no longer need it. All right, moving on. So our mobile access system, we've got powerful real-time access on mobile devices. In fact, there's a great anecdote from one of our customers who was called, an IT administrator who got a phone call from a CEO on a Sunday while he was playing golf, and the request from the CEO was to get a particular PowerPoint presentation file that had been developed 2 years ago for a client, and the CEO needed it first thing Monday morning. And typically with a tape backup environment with Greg's previous technology system, it just would have been impossible. It would have been a 3-day project to find the file in question. Greg, using his iPhone on the golf course, literally searched his archive in real time, found the file from 3 years ago and sent it to his CEO, all from his iPhone, without ever leaving the golf course. And that, I think, is, although it's a whimsical story, it's a powerful anecdote that really focuses on the power of cloud-based backup and the new ways of interacting with data that it opens up. Actually, I'll just, while that's been loading, here is the recovery view that I was referring to earlier, so that you can see here on my particular PC that these bold dates correspond to when backups have run on my system. And I can roll back my PC to any one of these dates. In my case, I've got 5 years worth of data history that I can roll back to. So it's an extremely powerful system that allows me to then see my data set at those different points in time and recover all of my data at those different points in time. Okay. In terms of our global infrastructure, we've got 7 primary data centers that we use for customer storage. We've got 5 data centers in the United States, mainly in Texas and Los Angeles. All of the data for American customers and North American customers is stored in North America, so generally your data will be stored at the closest physical data center that's proximate to your location. In terms of where our customers are globally, there's millions of customer accounts on our system, but as you can see, mainly clustered in North America and also in Europe and Asia. So we're very much a global firm. All right, so moving now to the Q&A section of the presentation. I've run a bit over time, and I apologize for that. Really, why SOS? It comes down to 3 things. Technology, we've got the best of breed technology in the market with our local backup, our continuous data protection, multi-site replication, the mobile access and recovery, and a product that really spans all 3 spaces, consumer, enterprise, and the small business space, which is our key focus. Our price point, the total cost of ownership of backing up your business with us is lower than competitive technologies such as tape or disk, but then also other online backup providers. And then our delivery and support infrastructure is really where we shine. There's no comparison to our Blue Sky offering. To have an expert backup engineer assess your business, analyze your requirements, in fact deploy our software and monitor and manage that backup so that you know that your business is protected, so that we back up your business so you can focus on what you do best. The peace of mind that comes with that is really unparalleled, and for a total cost of ownership at as little as 16% in the case study we looked at of competitive technologies. All right. So if you're tired of talking to me, I'd really encourage you to call in and talk to one of our solution specialists here in Los Angeles. The number for that is 877-896-3611. And in fact, to be in the draw for the Kindle giveaway, you have to call in and you have to cite the promotion code for this webinar. So simply call in and say, I was on the SMB webinar, and I've got the Kindle promotion code, which is SMBK86532. SMBK86532. Otherwise now we'll move to Q&A, and I'll try and answer any of the questions that we've got from the group. So please feel free to ask any and all questions. These sessions really are the best when we've got active participation. So got first question here from Don Clark. And Don asks, need to know the exact encryption method, standard and specifications used between your client and the backup servers for insurance company customer. Certainly, Don, and if you want to drill into that any further, just type out the details of what you need to know. We use the AES encryption standard as recommended by the US Department of Defense. Some of our earliest customers were government entities, both here and internationally. We encrypt data first in a sandbox on the machine that is being backed up on. The data is then shipped over a VPN tunnel to our data centers and then re-encrypted in our data centers before it's put at rest on our storage and archiving server infrastructure, which is all SOS's proprietary technology. Nobody has access to that data other than SOS. Again, if you're using the ultra-safe security model, the only person who has the decryption key for your data is you yourself. If you lose that encryption key, that would be a challenge. We simply cannot recover data for customers, and unfortunately we have had some customers who've used that encryption method and then lost their encryption key, and we couldn't help them, which was a shame. So if there are any other specific questions about encryption, happy to answer them to the best of my ability. James Incheco, I'm probably mispronouncing that, and I apologize if I am, James, says, what are the consequences of losing your encryption key code? And so, James, that's a good follow-on question from Don's. There are two security models. Standard SOS security model, where you can reset your password, and that's where we basically have your encryption key, but then we have some other security questions that get set up when you create your account on our system. And if you lose your encryption key, your account, and if you can then answer the backup security questions, if you will, then you can reset your encryption key. With the ultra-safe security system, that mechanism is not available. So you set your encryption key, you can change it at any time, but there is no way to reset that encryption key. It's a full private key encryption system. So we recommend for those customers, we have a lot of accounting customers and medical customers and banks who use that. We literally recommend taking a physical copy and putting it in a safe deposit box or in a safe and a physical location that you'll always be able to get access to. I hope that answers the question for James and for Don. Got a question here from Rebecca Nielsen. What is the impact on productivity and response times for network users when continuous backup is running? So Rebecca, for network users, it doesn't have a significant burden. And the reason I say that is, if you think about continuous backup, you're talking about a file that is versioned a lot. And if you think about the way online backup works, the heavy network load comes from what is called the baseline backup. So that's the day one backup, effectively. The day two backup, or I use the term day loosely, it could be hour 2 or hour 3. I really mean the second and third backup. In that case, only the incremental binary difference between the first version of the file and the second version of the file is being transferred. So the network burden is very low. So for continuous backup, the network burden is very low. Having said that, the computational burden is not insignificant. And that then computational burden really, sorry, what I mean by those are referring to CPU and memory and local resource cycles required to compress, encrypt, compare. Now that really varies by the horsepower of your computer and the type of content that we're dealing with. With regular business data, databases, Office documents, it's trivial. With videos and other heavy binary data, it can be quite significant. So the very short answer to your question is, what's the resource impact of continuous data protection? Usually very low, but if you've got large binary files, like large movie files, for example, it can be significant. I hope that answers the question for you, Rebecca. Chris Garrett asks, do you offer non-profit organization pricing structures? We're a small free medical and dental clinic. Thanks for the presentation. Chris, my pleasure. Yes, we do have promotional offers or for charitable organizations and for non-profits. You should call in and talk to one of our solution specialists while you're there, give the promotion code for the Kindle, and see what they can do with you. They'll be able to work with you on coming up with an offering. Okay, we're out of questions and comments for the moment. We've got a few minutes left here, so if there are any other questions from the group, please feel free to type them out. Just a matter of housekeeping, you'll get an email follow-up to this presentation with a link to the webinar video, so we'd love it if you shared that with others, or if there are others in your organization who perhaps would benefit from listening to this webinar and learning about it. And then for my benefit, I appreciate any feedback that anybody wants to email in. I've got another question here. James Diancheco asks, how safe is any data in a nuclear event? So, in a nuclear event, James, do you mean a real nuclear event, or are you using that expression colloquially? Keith Jeffries has said, and James, if you can come back on that, a real nuclear event, James said. Okay, so theoretically, in the case of a nuclear event, your data would still be backed up. Your data is generally stored in 2 geographically distinct locations. So having said that, there are theoretical scenarios we can dream up where Los Angeles and Houston are both wiped off the map, in which case your data would be, there'd be a challenge restoring your data. But looking at nuclear events in the colloquial sense, the real disasters that we deal with more commonly are hurricanes, for example, that will take cities offline, floods. We've seen, in the last few years, we've seen some significant disasters hit some cities. And in that case, your data is always available and immediately recoverable. Hope that answers the question, James. Keith Jeffries has asked, we've invested heavily in semantic BESR. Do you coexist with it? Yes, Keith, we can coexist with it. Depends what you mean by coexist. Though we can certainly sit alongside it in Symantec product directly, though. And hope that answers that question. If there are any follow-up questions from anybody, please feel free to participate. Otherwise, we'll be wrapping up the webinar in just a couple of minutes. James has said he's enjoyed the webinar, and thanks for your time. We love talking to customers here at SOS, so James, that's not a problem at all. And if there's any feedback from the group, I'd certainly welcome feedback on ways we could improve these webinars in future, both for yourselves. I hope today's participants will attend future webinars on different topics, so you can email in requests for topics, but also ways that we can improve these for other customers and for other potential customers. There's generally a couple of different webinars being run by different executives at the company every week. It's actually one of our key strategies in staying in touch directly with customers and really understand and communicating with customers both what we're doing and thinking what's upcoming in SOS's technology roadmap, but also understanding customers' concerns and needs. So I want to thank you all for your participation and for coming along today. And remember, call in with that promotion code SMB.